I thought it was appropriate to open this ceremony today with a good old Northeast Kingdom cowbell. Welcome everybody to the Northeast Kingdom's 50th birthday party. This afternoon's event was organized through the combined efforts of the Lyndon Historical Society and the Northeast Kingdom Chamber of Commerce. I'm Virginia Downs, the Vice President of Lyndon Historical Society, and Darcy McCann is the Executive Director of the Northeast Kingdom Chamber. As many of you probably know, it was in this very room exactly a half-century ago that U.S. Senator Aiken urged a large gathering of people from our 3 Northeast Kingdom counties to call ourselves the Northeast Kingdom. 50 years later, that name is well known throughout the country and in many places abroad. We have invited some special people here today to tell you what the Northeast Kingdom means to them. And first of all, it gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce a good friend of mine, Lola Aiken, to tell us what the kingdom meant to her husband, Senator Aiken. Lola.
My husband's great love was the Northeast Kingdom. He used to talk about it a lot, and he always used to say that he didn't come up this way without his fishbowl. But more than the area, he loved the people, and he used to say that you all were hardworking and had to work like the devil to make it, but you did. So I'm glad to be here today, and I'm sure he's up there looking down on the Northeast Kingdom, and he says it's still one of my favorites. Thank you.
I understand that Lieutenant Governor Racine has some very unusual greetings for us from the State House. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Virginia. It's always good to come up to the Northeast Kingdom, and I'm always a little hesitant to talk about the Northeast Kingdom because I'm not from here. I grew up in that great big city to the west called Burlington, so I always have to start in the Northeast Kingdom by acknowledging that that's where I'm from. But I always love to come to the Northeast Kingdom because it is such a beautiful place, and they're populated by some very special people. And I always get a very warm welcome here in the kingdom. And I'm also pleased that Cola Hudson is here as a local legislator. Cola, it's always good to see you. Cola lets me know what people up here think. And, well, yep. And it's not always, Cola and I don't always agree, as you might imagine, but, you know, every now and then we can see eye to eye. One of the things I get to do in my job as Lieutenant Governor is to, from time to time, is to represent Governor Howard Dean, and I'm pleased to be able to do that today. He's sorry that he can't be with you, but he did issue a proclamation, which I would like to read, and it's an official proclamation. State of Vermont Executive Department. Whereas the late U.S. Senator George Aiken voiced the phrase Northeast Kingdom for the first time at a meeting of the Vermont Development Commission on November 10th, 1949 at the Darling Inn in Lyndonville, Vermont, and whereas these 2 words, voiced by one of Vermont's most distinguished politicians, would change a region forever, and whereas the state of Vermont honors this special occasion and extraordinary region, now therefore I, Howard Dean, Governor, do hereby proclaim November 10th, 1999 as Northeast Kingdom Day in Vermont, honoring Orleans, Essex, and Caledonia counties, fondly called the Northeast Kingdom. Given under my hand and the Great Seal of the State, there's the Great Seal of the State, Vermont, this 9th day of November, AD 1999, Howard Dean, Governor of the state of Vermont. And I would like to present this to Mrs. Aiken as a way of saying thank you to Governor Aiken.
Thank you. You mean I can keep it? It'll go with the Aiken papers at UVM, so it'll be history.
That's great. You know, I do travel around Vermont a fair amount, and Every part of Vermont is unique and likes to think of itself as unique. But at the risk of being ungrammatical, this is the most unique part of Vermont of all. It is a very special place. It is distinct. I mean, geographically, it's different from the rest of the state. Politically, it's certainly different from the rest of the state. As a Democrat, I know that. Economically, it's different. Culturally, it's different. But in its distinctiveness, it reminds us of what Vermont was like 50 years ago. The strength of the people, the character of the people, the interrelationship between the people here and the land around us, the forests, the farmland, the rivers and streams. People in the kingdom are very close to nature because of what the kingdom looks like. That's its strength, and it's also part of its challenge. Governor Aiken was here 50 years ago because he was concerned about the economic future of the kingdom, and I think we all still are. We always need to spend a little bit more time and pay a little bit more attention to the kingdom's economic issues because of the isolation and the fact that unemployment's a little bit higher, and there are other economic issues as well. So I hope today we can think back to why the governor focused attention on the kingdom 50 years ago, and remind ourselves that we still need to pay a lot of attention to the kingdom. And I see Darcy nodding her head. I think from the Chamber's point of view, she understands that. But there's a lot that's very special about the kingdom. There are a lot of resources that are here. There's a real potential, economic potential in the kingdom. And with the changes in the ownership of our great forests in the Northeast, I think there are new opportunities for us as well. But we have to remember the real strength of the kingdom, again, are the people of the Northeast Kingdom. Again, we will think back to what Vermont was like 50 years ago, and we see it here in the Northeast Kingdom, in these three counties. People of strong character who know the value of hard work, people with a great deal of resiliency, people with a great spirit of Vermont optimism. So I'm really pleased to be here to honor Governor Aiken, honor the Northeast Kingdom, and to honor all of you people here and your friends and neighbors throughout this great region of the state. Thank you very much.
Promoting the Northeast Kingdom name was from the very first an effort to bring attention to our remote corner of the state and to help stimulate our economy. A man who is very familiar with encouraging economic health is Steve Patterson, Deputy Secretary of the Commission on Commerce and Community Development. I did it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today. Normally, Molly Lambert, the secretary of the agency, would have been at the podium, but ironically, she was at a meeting in Montpelier that Charlie Carter was at earlier today, talking about regional efforts and what we can do regionally to work together to improve the economy of the state of Vermont. And my understanding is that was the topic of discussion at the meeting in 1949 when the phrase of Northeast Kingdom was coined. Like the Lieutenant Governor, I can't claim heritage or birthright, at least in the Northeast Kingdom. My sin was being born in Montpelier. However, I like Governor Aiken, I do spend a lot of time up here fishing, and it's very near and dear to my heart. The economy of the Northeast Kingdom, as referenced by the Lieutenant Governor, is incredibly important to us. We work regularly with Charlie Carter, and I know all of you know this, but you're really lucky to have him up here. You've got a real advocate on your behalf in Montpelier. Charlie does, and the other folks as well, do an outstanding job for you. We intend to do everything we can in the future to keep the focus up here. We've got a variety of projects and efforts we're working with Charlie on to try to keep things moving up here. And I'm real pleased to be able to be here today, and thanks for having me.
A person who's very close to economic development, obviously, in our tri-state area is Charlie Carter. Charlie, where are you? Charlie's here. Oh, there he is. Good. Writing his speech.
One I was forgetting. get something. I think the only word I can use is privilege. It truly was a privilege to have known Governor Aiken and had worked for him these many years ago. Times have changed. Us old folk, we think of the good old days. Well, in the good old days, if you came to work a little after 7 in the morning and called Senator Aiken's office, guess who answered the phone, right? No middleman, no middlewoman. The governor answered the phone. I've never met anyone who could treat you more kindly or guide you and give you some education and help than George Aiken. And I've never met someone who had a better memory for names. He would come up to Lyndonville to see Lee Gray at the Light Company, Charlie Weaver, who worked for him in Washington, Mr. Downs here. He knew everyone. He spent a lot of time fishing with Wallace Gilpin up on Lake Nemphremagog. And I must say, it's been a pleasure and a privilege to have held my position for many, many years. Thanks.
Let's see, Lola, was it 1936 that George became governor of the state?
Don't forget, I didn't know him.
I know.
Until
I just want to say, in case some people didn't realize that he had been governor and then, of course, went on to the Senate.
Speaker of the House, Lieutenant Governor, and United States Senator, but he always said the best job was being Governor of Vermont.
And that's why you always called him governor. You never called him senator. I understand from what Graham Newell tells me that he used to be called the ambassador from the Northeast Kingdom. Is that true, Graham? Graham? You're wrong.
It was in 1953 that the good people of St. Johnsbury sent me over to represent them in the big house. The house still had 245 members, each one representing one town. And I represented St. Johnsbury. I'd only been there a week when I was approached by some Lyndonville civic-minded citizens who came over to Montpelier, asked for an appointment with me, and among the men I recall were Kit Hoffman, and W. Arthur Simpson, and Dr. Jardine, and Hazen Russell. And I mentioned W. Arthur. I should mention him twice because if anybody ever promoted the Northeast Kingdom in my lifetime, it was W. Arthur Simpson. And his name should never be forgotten around this area. They approached me to ask me if I would bring in a bill. I had not brought in any bill. I hadn't even thought about it at that point. Would I bring in a bill for them? A bill that would appropriate $15,000 to Perry Merrill and his state forests and parks to cut the brush and to make a trail on Burke Mountain, to make a ski trail. It seems that the CCC back in the 1930s here had not only built the road up the mountain, but they'd also cut a trail. And that trail they were calling the Bear Den Trail. But it was at the years in the 1940s, the trail evidently had grown to brush. And it was these men who had the vision that if only that could be developed, perhaps something might be developed up at Burke Mountain. So I brought in the bill for $15,000 to clear the brush, or to have Perry Merrill clear the brush up there on Burke Mountain. Now, fortunately, as a historian, I save everything. Perhaps unfortunately at times, but I save everything. I even saved the notes when I finally reported the bill on the floor of the House in 1953. And I read part of those notes to you. My 1953 notes. It has distressed me the past few weeks to find that many members of the House have never visited Vermont's largest and one of our finest state forest parks, the Burke Mountain area of the Darling State Forest Park, located in the towns of Burke, Kirby, and Victory, in an area now called by some the Northeast Kingdom. Now that's the first time I ever really recall using that term. That was in '53. I had done so much work to try to get that bill through that other young representatives at that time, including the representative from Brattleboro, Bob Gannett, the representative from Springfield, Howard Finn, and the representative from Dover, Stephen Green, that they were the ones, of course, being people from way down in the banana belt, as we call them, down there, of course, knew very little about this area up here. And it was they who soon started calling me because of my pestering, I think, at that point, for my bill, that they started calling me there the ambassador from the Northeast Kingdom, which they thought was somewhat of a joke at that point. Perhaps it was then, but if there's anything today that I'm glad that I was at least a little part of. And I hope that there'll be people when they're even skiing the Bad End Trail today, which my bill called for widening it to at least 60 feet. That was all in the bill, stipulating. I hope that anybody today who is still skiing that area might at least recall at least that the bill was brought in by Representative Newell of St. Johnsbury, the erstwhile ambassador from the Northeast Kingdom.
George Aiken is on the checklist to vote in Avery's Gore. Etta Wilmot, Avery's Gore town clerk, sends her regrets for missing an opportunity to honor Governor George, as she always fondly calls him. But Etta has no regrets about not having her picture taken with the town clerks, because ever since Act 60, Etta has had trouble keeping her hair looking good. For historical purposes, Mrs. Gore has a few maps of Avery's Gore available with the Aiken homestead highlighted, as well as copies of the checklist. Lola, I'm pleased you're here to answer any skeptics about the governor's permanent voting privileges in the Gore. George Aiken loved the rural character of Vermont. He kept a good dirt road to his house in Putney, and was concerned when rural political power was reapportioned from the kingdom. I decided to run for governor in 1962 against incumbents F. Ray Keyser and Philip Hoff, when reapportionment, one man, one vote, was being moved to the front of the stove. I proposed apportionment should be done by the acre. 1 acre, one vote. Folks, no matter what they say in Winooski, the kingdom crowned Phil Hoff governor because Ray Keyser was going to close Lyndon Teachers College. That's power. In 1964, I ran against Ralph Foote and Phil Hoff. I lost again. My calculation that Vermont had become 1.5 feet long and 1/2 foot wide didn't get me many votes. The one-man, one-vote law shifted political power from the rural to the urban areas in the legislative branch. But as governor, I'd offset the legislature by keeping the executive branch sparsely populated and pro-rural. After running for governor for 34 years, only to have my votes counted under scattered, I took Governor Aiken's advice to his Senate colleagues on the Vietnam War. When in a hopeless campaign, declare victory and go home. I did just that on the steps of the Capitol in Montpelier on November 8, 1994. I declared victory, served 7 minutes as governor, resigned and went back to the Gore. I dusted off the old political plank to reapportion Vermont by the acre, and I began a crusade to bring back the Northeast Kingdom's political power. Folks, we have the Bible on our side in this effort. Genesis 1 says, God created heaven and earth, land before man. The Star-Spangled Banner proclaims, oh, say does that Star-Spangled Banner yet wave o'er the land of the free, the dirt before the brave. And what great bedrock for political correct campaigning image, highlighting the forgotten acre with a Bible in hand, singing the national anthem. I'm asking you folks today to bring back the kingdom's political power. Next reapportion by the acre. Bring the beauty of the land of the Northeast Kingdom back into the political voting process. Do not endorse the sprawl of human population that increases governmental infrastructure and tax resources. I hope Lieutenant Governor Racine will honor Senator Aiken's devotion to rural Vermont by enlisting the Governor Dean to join the crusade. We know it won't be easy. All great land battles are tough. Not to change the subject, Doug, but up at Dowker's store in the Gore, Bert Silsby thinks that MD after the governor's name stands for maybe Democrat. But think about our land claim. Once we are reapportioned by the acre, there's no more need to take a census. It's a money saver. Now, Mrs. Gore has a few sheets showing that with 1 acre, 1 vote, the kingdom gained 16 representatives. Chittenden County loses 27. When Senator Aiken was alive, rural Vermont felt protected. When a problem came up, why, we'd just say, let George do it. But now it's up to us. Let's bring political power to the acres of Vermont, land that Senator Aiken fondly called the Northeast Kingdom 50 years ago today. In closing, let me say the politics practiced by Senator Aiken of fairness, civility, and no ill will are not with us today. Due to dirty politics, the name of our campaign, a crusade to bring back the kingdom's political power, must be changed. Cousin Castor has just gotten word to me that the urban opponents have already leaked a soundbite using the letters PP for political power, thus transforming our campaign into Gore's crusade to bring back the kingdom's peepees. So as now our mission will have to become, by George, political power by the acre. Well, there may be trouble with that one too. Thanks for inviting me. I should show you some of George Aiken's wisdom.
Well, it sounds like Lieutenant Governor has a good platform to start off any campaign. I'd just like to say that I feel very lucky to be a native of this wonderful town of Lyndon, and doubly blessed to be a native of the Northeast Kingdom. I'd like to see a show of hands. How many were born in the Northeast Kingdom? Wow, pretty good. They haven't taken us over yet. Here's another Northeast Kingdom native over here, Harriet Fisher, with a few words to say for us.
Yes, I'd like to say I'm very happy to be a native of Lyndon, Vermont, and I've never regretted it. I've always never thought I wanted to live somewhere else, although I've enjoyed going to other places. One of the things that I read about in history a long time ago, it wasn't called the Northeast Kingdom, but the three counties, Caledonia, Essex, and New Orleans, were once the 5th District of Vermont. And my great-great-uncle, Isaac Fletcher, represented that 5th District back on the Matt and Van Buren. That was just a sidelight. When I graduated from Lyndon Institute, Governor Aiken was our speaker, and it was held in Music Hall because the chapel at Lyndon Institute probably would have been too small for all the relatives and friends that would want to go to see the graduation. So I don't remember what he spoke about, but I definitely remember him being there. And another memory I have about the Northeast Kingdom is that one time I was visiting the Coolidge Park, Calvin Coolidge's Plymouth, and I signed in for the registration, and the lady looked at it, she says, "Oh, Lyndonville." And I said, "Yes, that's up in the Northeast Kingdom." She looked at me again, and I said, "Oh, sorry, I forgot to wear my sari today." But anyway, it was a privilege to receive a letter from George. Oh, it was a privilege for me to meet him back in 1941 when Lyndon, well, no, it was the whole state of Vermont was having the sesquicentennial, and I was playing in the Lyndonville band over in Montpelier, and Kenneth Hoffman from Kirby, that is the representative from Kirby, and the youngest legislator, I think, that was in the legislature, he took me in to have me meet Governor Aiken, which I thought was great to really meet him in person, even though I'd heard him speak before. So I thought that it would be just good to know, for everyone to know, that I'm very happy to be a part of the Northeast Kingdom, because I could have ended up in Worcester, Mass. I went to Beckett College there, and they tried to find jobs for us, but lucky for me, they knew me well enough here in Lyndonville, Vermont, to have a job waiting for me in the Lyndonville electric plant when I got through there. So I think the Northeast Kingdom I was due to be here, and here I am.
And now, another Northeast Kingdom native, Darcy.
My mother would tell you I'm also one of the largest babies ever to come out of Brentwood Hospital. Feet 11'9". Oh, I know all the mothers are going, oh! On behalf of the Lyndon Historical Society and the Northeast Kingdom Chamber, and actually all the other chambers and people from throughout the kingdom today, we'd really like to thank you for honoring our special region by attending this celebration. We'd also have a few companies and people we'd like to thank, and I just would like to thank the people here over at this table that spoke today. What wonderful remembrances and memories of the kingdom. We'd all like to give you a round of applause for taking the effort to come to our kingdom and to come talk with us. We'd also like to thank the following for their donations: the White Market for the cookies, the Darling Inn Mail Site, Price Chopper for the cakes, St. Johnsbury Paper for the paper products, Lyndonville Savings Bank for the space donation, Cold Hollow Cider for the cider, and the many of you who volunteered your time and efforts to make this day a success. Some people were unable to make it here today, and I just wanted to read a message from Tom Slayton. He's not a native, but his wife is, and he wanted to read a little bit, just his impressions of the Northeast Kingdom. We also have a representative from Senator Jeffords' office, a former student of Graham Mills, who's going to come up and speak after that, and then I'm going to finish up. From Tom Slayton, to my friends in the Northeast Kingdom, Senator Aiken's characterization of the northeasternmost corner of Vermont as the Northeast Kingdom is surely one of the most telling regional descriptions ever coined. Whether Aiken created the term himself or adopted it, it is stuck. Now 50 years after the speech in which he first used the term, Vermonters still refer to this region, technically Orleans, Caledonia, and Essex counties, as a kingdom. Why has the name stuck? Probably for the same reasons that called it into being in the first place. This place, arguably the most distinctive region of Vermont, still feels like a separate realm, a place apart. It is still the most rural and remote part of the state. It still, unfortunately, lags behind the rest of the state in economic opportunity. It probably has more writers and artists than any other part of Vermont, and probably also more woodsmen and farmers and small business owners and unspoiled small towns as well. It certainly has many of Vermont's most beautiful lakes and pleasant villages, and a wide-ranging array of inns, bed and breakfast establishments, and restaurants. It has in St. Johnsbury a strikingly elegant cultural hub, and in Newport, a bustling, beautiful town with a lakefront unsurpassed in northern New England. Most of all, it has a population that is bright, witty, and creative, and that takes no guff and stands second to none in their love for their home place. It's the part of Vermont that feels to me the most like the Vermont that I grew up in. There's no king or queen here. No Vermonter would ever stand for one. But this place apart does feel like a kingdom today, as it did 50 years ago, and I hope that it always will. Regards and best wishes, Tom Slayton, editor of Vermont Life. Now I'd like Adam Spartalotti from James Jeffords' office to come up.
Senator is sorry he can't be here today, but he always relishes the opportunity to come up to the kingdom and wanted me to read his thoughts about the kingdom. I'm sorry that the Senate schedule keeps me in Washington for the 50th anniversary celebration of the Northeast Kingdom. It is no secret to any of us here, least of all Lola, that George Aiken had a way with words. He had a knack for capturing the many different aspects of Vermont in a phrase, and I can't think of a more appropriate depiction for this region than the Northeast Kingdom. As soon as you cross the border of Orleans, Caledonia, or Essex County, you know you have entered a new world. Your pulse slows down a bit, and your worries are not nearly as important. You find yourself taking notice of the simpler things around you, like the colorful leaves in the autumn, the snow-capped mountains in winter, the smell of sugar houses in the spring, and the way the fog settles into the kingdom's myriad of valleys on cool summer mornings. Indeed, the Northeast Kingdom is a truly magical place. Thanks for affording me the opportunity to have these words read. I look forward to getting out of Washington and once again enjoying the splendor that is the kingdom. Sincerely, Jim Jeffords.
In parting, I'd like to offer a humorous aside from something that really happened just an hour ago as I drove the delightful Mrs. Aiken and Senator Graham Newell to our appointed spot. Noting what impact George Aiken had by imparting these important words, Northeast Kingdom, Graham exclaimed to Mrs. Aiken in the car, "Look at that, Lola. Isn't that something? That wouldn't have happened without George." What Graham was pointing to was a Northeast Kingdom waste management truck in front of us. And before closing, I'd like to note the following as a native myself. We are a large region, but you realize just how small we are when you see chums in the grocery store. We are a very different region, with our French-speaking neighbors to the north, to our residents down in the banana belt, as Graham would say. But we're alike. Just try to challenge us, and we will battle you back with fury. It is amazing that the name was said, and I think even more amazing, 50 years later, that the name stuck. This, I think we all agree, is the most beautiful place on earth, and we love the kingdom. That's why our beloved George Aiken coined the phrase 50 years ago, and why we're here today. Thank you.
now it's time to eat.